Welcome to the Green Wisdom Health Podcast with Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis, where you will learn about natural solutions to common ailments. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. Stephen and Janet Lewis.
Hello and welcome to this week's show. I'm Janet Lewis.
And I'm Dr. Lewis.
And we are here to bring you a very exciting show about weight loss called Going Down the Rabbit Hole to Weight Loss. One of our patients actually helped us with that title, and I'm sure Dr. Lewis will explain all about how that came to be. But we're very excited that you've decided to join us today. And if you're not familiar with what we do, we are home of the low-cost lab work where we take the guesswork out of your nutritional issues. So if you hear something on the show today that interests you, but you don't really know where to start, that's what we do. We send you to your local lab, and they actually draw blood for us so that we can find out what's going on with your health. And Dr. Lewis, would you like to explain a little bit about what's going on with weight and why people can't lose it? And I'm sure they're all wanting to now that they've just come off of this wonderful holiday season where they all ate too much and they're a little bit bloated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I'll talk about the name of the show first. There was this lady in here just a few hours ago. Her name is Amanda. So say you get a shout out, and actually I should call her Dr. Amanda. And she talked about the podcast we did with Drew Manning, Fit to Fat to Fit. And she said, that was the best podcast you've ever done. I said, I felt worse doing that podcast. I wasn't good at all. I'm glad you enjoyed it. And she said, that's the first time you didn't go all the way down the rabbit hole. And it's like, yeah, I know I do that. So I apologize. Janet sometimes has trouble keeping me on track. So Dr. Amanda, you're in the limelight. Thank you. She was really cute.
And I'll try to keep him out of the hole as much as possible. So you can start down it and let's see if where it goes.
And she said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. I said, you didn't hurt my feelings at all. You're absolutely right. So her and her husband, Scott, are hilarious. I love them both. Weight loss, it's a funny thing. And, you know, I never mean to be disrespectful, although sometimes I'm a little blunt and some people take it as such. So I met a lady last night. I was coming out of a massage. I got the best massage therapist in the world, and he's always promoting me. And his next client, he says, oh, you need to meet Dr. Lewis, and you need to go get your blood work done. And I said, well, why don't you just put her on this canary seed, which we're not going to talk much about, but we do have that for weight loss. And I lost from 184 to 170 because of the holidays. I gained to 174, and then I ate 2 cookies last night, so I'm down to 171. So the canary seed does work. And I told this lady, well, just do what the massage therapist says with this canary seed. Does it taste good? It's all about attitude, folks. If you're really interested in losing weight, should have just said, sign me up. No, it doesn't taste good. It doesn't taste bad. It doesn't taste like much of anything. But if she was really interested, and she's probably 100 pounds overweight, and she said, I just want it quick, easy, once done, slam the door, and I'm good to go. I said, that does not exist. And, you have to quit having excuses. I hear excuses all day long. And frankly, I've seen a lot of really beautiful people laying in their casket because they had the knowledge, but they didn't have whatever it took to employ the knowledge. And when I say young, like I'm talking about people in their 60 and younger. And it's like, well, you've had the knowledge forever. And, dying's not a problem, but not living is the real issue. So I'm on rabbit hole, all over the place. So number one, don't skip meals. Your body goes into, I have to store what I do have because I don't see anything coming. And genetics does play a pretty good role in it, but I'm trying to be polite. That's hard to do. But have reasonable meals, have small meals, have good meals. If you will read the real research, and I know you can get on Google and read anything you want, but the Atkins Primal Paleo, higher protein and higher fat diets always lose twice as much as the other ones. But what do all diet books have in common? They say quit eating processed foods. So what do we eat? Processed foods, like those 2 cookies. Janet got it for a belated birthday present. They're like, oh my God, wonderful. And I'm going to have 2 more tonight. But I'll probably lose weight. Janet's shaking her head. I think I just went down the rabbit hole.
I don't understand. You're trying to inspire people not to do bad things, but you're telling them that you eat cookies to lose weight.
Okay. That'll lead me down another rabbit hole.
Apparently so.
A lot of it is what you speak, what you expect. It's your expectations and where you put your faith. And I've told this story in front of a couple of patients, including the good doc. I said one time, there's this lady and she says, I can't believe you eat the stuff you eat and you stay so thin. And I said, well, a lot of it's attitude and expectations. And I proved to her, I said, you can pray over Snickers and lose weight. Now, I don't think Snickers is a good weight loss diet, so please don't misunderstand me, but I would eat 6 or 8 Snickers a day, and I would speak the proper words over it, and I obviously lost weight. And she says, I can't believe you do that. And I said, well, you're the good Christian here, so you're getting what you're speaking, and you're speaking about fat, you're speaking about disease, you're speaking about fatigue, and if you speak about the opposite of that, you'll get it. So that's a big part. One of the things I think that's keeping us overweight is chronic stress. Now, that stress is a word that means nothing. It's just too vague. It can be chemical stress. I talk about the toxins, and I know that's very, very true. It can be emotional stress. It can be financial stress, and that's pretty common. Most of us live beyond our means. It can be marital stress because sometimes you don't have a spouse that's peaceful and loving and accepting. And these stress hormones, if you have them going too much too fast, like epinephrine and cortisol, it can really cause a problem, creating inflammation and putting on weight to buffer the inflammation. So, and that usually raises your blood pressure too, or many times it does. So don't skip meals. I'm a big fan of leaving the carbohydrates alone, even though I talk about Snickers and cookies. It's not something I do every day, folks. Then there's belly fat and estrogen. Actually, belly fat produces estrogen. Yes, even on a man it does. But it also stores estrogen, and estrogen can be anything from plastics, pesticides, styrofoam cups. The styrenes are incredibly hard, if possible at all, to detoxify. So that can lead to weight gain around the hips, the waist, and the thighs. So, and Janet did this. I don't know, I talked about this before. We were at this place one time, and she ordered a good dark beer. And the bartender says, well, I like this light beer. And she says, well, it's higher in estrogen mimicking compounds, and you're going to get man boobs. And she was telling the bartender this, and she came and told me that she told the guy that. Well, he remembered her months and months and months later when she went back, and he says, I changed to dark beer. I don't have man boobs. So think about the chemical stress of the estrogens. Deal with your financial stress. There's good books about that. I think Ramsey's probably got the best stuff there. And you can sit or you can get fit. I don't like to exercise, but I do stay very, very active. A very large percentage of obesity is linked to metabolic syndrome, syndrome X/diabetes. And this lady last night that I was talking about that, wanted something quick and easy, slam the door and she's done with it. She said she is diabetic. And I said, well, are you on statin drugs? She said, well, yeah, I am. I said, well, statin drugs increase your chance of diabetes by 48%, according to some research. And I'm not saying statin drugs are good or bad. I'm a chiropractor. I don't make those decisions about drugs, although I'd never take them. But I said, well, you have to understand the bacteria in your GI tract are much, much different in a diabetic than it is in someone that's thin. And there's plenty of research on that too. So you think about probiotics. It takes forever and a day to get good probiotics established in your GI tract, if that's possible at all. And I take probiotics quite a bit, and Janet does too. So let the bacteria go in and do the work. And these bacteria, there's different types of lactobacillus that will decrease the stress response, lower cortisol. And then there's some of the bifidobacterium that decreases stress response and anxiety and and helps the GABA response. It does a lot of the neurotransmitters. It makes them so that you're more prone to feel satisfied and less prone to go out and binge eat. And that's one reason why 5-HTP is a good one. And 5-HTP is one of the several very important ingredients in one of the supplements that we suggest for weight loss. It's called Carb Crave Complex. Then there's another one we'll talk about in a little bit. I think if you want to lose weight, you have to get familiar with the glycemic index. Sugary cereals were pretty much introduced about in the 1950s. And if you will go back and look, diabetes and obesity and a lot of other diseases connected to that have doubled, tripled, quadrupled, et cetera, et cetera. Some of the cereals contain more than 50% sugar, and that's really, really bad. So if you learn the glycemic index, you want to go with the low glycemic vegetables. You should always stay away from potatoes and rice and pasta. The processed foods, I'm talking mostly wheat. Wheat's one of the worst things that our government has ever subsidized. I won't get too far into that, but stay the heck away from canola oil and stay away from soy, wheat, corn products, which is in almost everything. If it has high fructose corn syrup, you should run somewhere else. Some of the good foods are asparagus, broccoli, celery, cucumbers, green beans, lettuce. I don't like iceberg, but the peppers, spinach, zucchini, tomatoes, all that kind of stuff is really, really good, and you should eat a whole lot of that. And I'm a proponent of eating more fat. That does not include corn oil or soybean oil or canola oil, because that's some pretty nasty stuff with what it does in the body. And again, I'm more paleo, primal, Atkins. I lean that way. So when you learn the glycemic index, then you have to learn the difference between simple carbohydrates and complex carbohydrates. So stick with the complex carbohydrates, and you can figure that out yourself, I hope. Then there's good fats, bad fats we just talked about. The foods that are pro-inflammatory, which means create inflammation, and there's always inflammation in obesity and any other disease. The ones that have trans fats are the ones that create inflammation, or the fast foods. You notice they slipped an S in there. They're really fat foods, not fast foods. Packaged foods, frozen foods, cookies and candies. I may have to change my supper plan tonight. Baked goods, chips, crackers, because you're getting back into the wheat, which is full of what? Gluten. Gluten has it's 4 times higher in our wheat than it used to be, and up to 40 times higher than what it used to be. And, we all know gluten's a bad thing, but then they spray it with glyphosate or Roundup. That's not a good thing either. Margarine. Stay away from it. Breakfast foods, unless it's bacon and eggs. Just don't do the cereals.
Would that include oatmeal? Well, there's a lot of people that say they eat oatmeal for their heart health. So
yeah, well, that's a big fat lie. They'll say, well, if you eat oatmeal for a month or two, it'll lower your cholesterol 15 points. Good Lord. Your cholesterol can vary more than that every day. Your cholesterol can vary 20% from one day to the next. So that's kind of a lie. But as most of us have begun to realize, if you tell a lie loud enough and long enough, people start to believe it. And that's why I promote, reading books that are full of research that most people can understand.
Well, I think it's better if they do like the steel cut oats, right? And they're not talking about putting milk and sugar and all the good stuff in it that makes oatmeal taste good.
Did I go down a rabbit hole and forget to answer that question?
I think so. You just kind of said, well, it was a lie. And
Amanda, I'm thinking of you when I'm thinking of rabbit holes. I'll never look at a rabbit the same.
I guess no oatmeal.
Well, judiciously maybe. And if you're going to do it, for God's sake, throw a big chunk of butter. I'm talking about real butter in it because that's good fats. And like Janet said, leave out the sugar. I have a tendency to put a little honey in it, which is still, gives you that response. It's just not as bad as sugar. Of course, me being a beekeeper and Dr. Amanda's husband being a beekeeper, we kind of get along there. You got to give my girls the benefit of eating their honey and tell them how sweet and beautiful they are.
Well, I think a big thing that people can do is moderation on their portion sizes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, go to different countries and look at how they eat.
People think they're being starved and they're being ripped off at restaurants whenever they don't get a whole huge portion. Like we were at a popular restaurant here where we lived the other night, and they were offering chicken fried steak for $7.99. That chicken fried steak covered our entire plate by itself. We could have fed 4 people with that chicken fried steak.
And half of it was gristle too. So.
But I mean, it's just ridiculous, the sizes, but people think that they should be getting that to get their money's worth. And if you're eating all of that, you're not going to lose weight.
Right.
You really got to cut down the size.
And when they fry it, it's not really fried in the best oil. So I'd be using fried food sparingly. So, it could be a serotonin or dopamine deficiency. One of the things, you've heard Janet and me talk about thyroid and being suboptimal thyroid function, which is almost always true. It can be adrenal exhaustion. You'd be surprised how many times I see on lab work. And I said, well, your cortisol's at 4 at 8 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how you can get your butt up out of bed. You must drink 2 cups of coffee before you get out of bed. And one lady says, yeah, I have a Keurig right there by my bed. I have to have 2 cups before I get out. And she thought I was reading her mail because I hit it. Right where she lived.
Well, and some people don't know whether their thyroid or adrenal glands are optimal or not. They don't even know what optimal is. They're just going off what their doctors told them is high or low. And most of the time that's just a TSH, which isn't even the thyroid. Actually, it's just the stimulating hormone.
From your brain.
Yeah. So if you don't really know what your numbers are and you hear Dr. Lewis talking about this, I actually put a link to in the show notes for the comprehensive lab panel that we offer, because it includes Dr. Lewis's consultation to go over the lab with you to find out.
But don't buy the lab unless you're, by golly, ready to do something. I mean, let's be realistic. If you want to live a healthy life, you got to put effort into it. Ain't nothing for free. If you want corn on the cob, you got to till the soil and plant the corn and wait and be patient.
Isn't that what we're trying to avoid, is the corn on the cob eating?
Well,
oh no, I get the analogy.
Bad analogy. Maybe watermelon.
Put the okra seed in.
You must be a Cajun or something, okra.
Anyway,
put in your gumbo, honey.
The comprehensive panel allows you to see your adrenal function, which is the cortisol levels that Dr. Lewis is talking about.
If you get your hormones, you'll get DHEA, which comes from the adrenal glands, and that's really incredibly important to keep high.
But the basic panel that we have has the 5 parts of the thyroid on it, so you don't have to guess whether it's optimal or not. You can have the lab run, and Dr. Lewis can show you and tell you about whether it is. And honestly, that's a big reason why a lot of people don't lose weight. They don't have a functioning optimal thyroid. So that'd be a great way to start your new year off, is by knowing your blood level numbers and get some help with health and the right supplements to help you start losing weight. We had a guy yesterday that just ran his lab again. He's been with us forever. His name is Gary. And
hey, we love you, Gary, up in cold Amarillo, Texas.
Yep. And he's been a patient forever. And we thought, oh, man, he's just eating great. He's done so well. He got a sticker because his lab did so well. And Dr. Lewis called him. He said, I haven't been eating good at all. But he's been taking all of our stuff. And, even when you're not doing the best, the nutrition does help supplement that so that you can. Yeah, long-term supplementation does help you be able to cheat a little bit, because you are putting the good stuff in, even though you're not getting it out of the food you're eating.
I'm proud of Gary because he's a guy, and guys they're not as consistent with their health, and that's why women outlive us 7.8 years, because us men are not nearly as smart as we think we are. Okay, take my man card away. Women are smarter and they're stronger. Get over it, because they really are. And they're more cooperative.
I do notice the ones, though, that listen to our podcast we seem to have a good number of men that are pretty compliant now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's because they've watched their parents get older and the drugs they've all been given and see where that has gotten that generation.
Yeah.
And they're all really scared now that that's going to happen to them. And they're trying to avoid the pitfalls. And I'm really proud of you guys out there that are really trying to stick with it and do the right thing and get started at a young age.
And the wisdom and knowledge seems to be being imparted in younger and younger people, because we get all kinds of people that are 25 and 35 saying, well, I just want to live the best life I can. And my doctor says I'm fine, but I still feel terrible. So, yeah. And Janet, I think, said something about hormones a while ago. Well, usually it's estrogen dominance and progesterone deficiency. Some of the things that are impediments to weight loss is the chronic stress I talked about, the insulin resistance, which is what you're going to get before you go on into diabetes. And we do test insulin too. That's very important. The neurotransmitters that I talked about, the happy hormones, aging, not because you're getting older, just because you've had more decades to accumulate the toxins. The thyroid we talked about, the inflammation we talked about, and I briefly talked about the altered gastrointestinal ecology. I want to talk about that one for just a minute. We talked about probiotics. Now, let me tell you how important it is. The microbes, or the good bacteria in your GI tract, help to shape the development and the expression of your hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, HPA. Hypothalamus and pituitary in your brain. So how is it that affects, or the gut microbe affect your brain? Well, the smart aleck answer is you've got your head up your GI tract, but that's probably not true. I'm going to get in trouble. Get out of that rabbit hole, Amanda. But GI tract, you've got to feed it probiotics. You've got to continue. And sometimes even Janet, she'll come by and we're about to go to bed and she'll give me 2 capsules of 50 billion. So 2 capsules times 50, although they're probably made at 150 billion. And sometimes she'll get me these packages of probiotics we have that they claim 350 billion, although they're made at 650 billion. She says, I can tell by your mood that your guts is not exactly what it should be, and you need to reseed with the good probiotics. So she can tell with my mood whether I've been taking the stuff or not. And again, as a man, I'm not as compliant as Janet is. She's a little misconsistent, and that's why she's more energetic and has a prettier smile. But she takes good care of me, and I'm beyond blessed. But somebody said a while ago, man, you're just so smart. And I said, I just do what the voices in my wife's head tell me to do. So probiotics in the GI tract, because it affects your brain in a good way. So one thing I would tell people is get off the idea of diet. This fad thing. Well, I personally think the keto that Drew Manning is pushing, and there's lots of doctors that talk about nutrition, over and over again. And some of them are chiropractors, and some of them are naturopaths, and some of them are osteopaths, and some of them are medical doctors. There's plenty of doctors that do know a lot about nutrition, but we kind of think we have the shortcut, the easiest way to get from point A to point B. And although I'm the doctor here, I promise you Janet knows everything about nutrition that she needs to. She really does.
Only because I've lived it. So people go, really, you've tried all this stuff in this store, and we probably have 400 products in the store. And
access to 100,000 more, but.
Right. Well, just the things we carry ourselves. I've tried probably 90% of them in the store. Maybe more.
She even takes the stuff for testosterone, because testosterone in a woman is very, very, very important too. And a woman with low testosterone cannot lose weight. That's one of the impediments to that. One of the other products that we have incredibly good success with is called CLA, which is conjugated linolenic acid.
Mm-hmm. I take one of those every time I eat a meal because it speeds up weight loss.
Yeah. And what's really funny is, I said I wasn't going to talk about it. When we were checking out this canary seed just to see if it'd work, and I lost 14 pounds. Janet lost, what'd you lose, 5 or 6?
I lost 8.
Oh, well, she didn't need to. And it's like, she's kind of a little bitty thing anyway. I don't know where she had 8 pounds to lose. Yeah. See, guys, I say the right thing, and I'm winking as I say it, and then I'll get a cookie and no reprimand for eating it tonight. I know I'm so full of BS, and that's, bacon sandwich and belief systems, folks. So,
I don't know what people are taking away from this show. Do the right thing, don't do the right thing. Do a little of both things.
It's really funny because even yesterday, Janet says, you're so peaceful. You're just like Dave Meyer, just always peaceful. And she said, I really liked you better when you were angry and you'd tell people off. And it's like, I don't like to do that. And so I'm in trouble for being peaceful. I don't know, folks. How in the heck can you keep your wife satisfied? Just say, yes, ma'am.
You were just a lot of fun when you used to have a little twist to your words. They were just like little daggers that would come out.
Well, I've said some twisty things today, and I got the look 3 times already. So, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. So, I don't know. Yeah, I'll get it when I get home. You said this. Now, have you ever seen a man, not necessarily old man, but the grumpy old man syndrome?
What is that exactly?
That's usually low testosterone. And the more they have that belly fat, the more they're creating estrogen, and it makes it harder to lose weight.
And that's what makes an old man grumpy, is that they've got low testosterone.
I'm not going to say what I'm thinking.
Oh, I would understand now why they would be grumpy. Okay, I'm getting
So irritability, anger, and depression. So they're like 2.4 times more likely to be obese. I'm sorry. I'm trying to be polite here, folks, but I'm kind of feeling.
So maybe they're eating a lot of carbs then because they're grumpy.
Yeah, and some of those carbs, one of the guys says, I drink an 18-pack of beer a day. I said, well, you're 400 pounds. You can't get on the floor and play with your kids. He said, I can't even have sex anymore. So I said, you'd rather choose beer over having a relationship with your child? And he was actually hooked on it. So that's where it takes a lot of willpower, and that's where I say, see your best friend, see your counselor, see your preacher. We all need help from time to time to be encouraged and to try to build up each other. And, since 2017 was the year of being offended over everything, maybe 2018 will be the one where we all live in peace and harmony and applaud our sameness and forgive the differences. I mean, it's time for us to have a happy life. And that'll decrease your stress, and we'll all lose weight and be energetic and have a great time. So,
but if they're going to eat carbs because they're depressed, there's actually something that we have called carb crave complex. So if you're in a pickle right now and you're having a hard time breaking the cycle,
pickles are low glycemic. They're okay,
but not fried. So make sure you have something that helps you break down the carbs. At least we have something called carb crave complex for people that are trying to start losing weight, but they need a little help. The carb crave complex helps them break down the carbs they're having.
Yeah, and helps them avoid it too.
So it'll give you a little jump start on your weight loss there while you're getting undepressed and working on your lab and getting your testosterone up. So, I even learn things back here when I sit and listen to him talk. Is mesmerizing.
Well, I mean, we talk about the grains and all that. Most of us have allergies, so the top things you should avoid, genetically modified food, which the top ones of those are soy, corn, rapeseed, which is actually canola, and potatoes, genetically modified, and avoid them if you can. But that's many, many times a huge part of the equation of causing fluid retention and inflammation and the storage of fat, because your body stores these fat cells because it's storing the toxins. So it really is a multifaceted endeavor to start weight loss. But we've seen it happen. We've helped facilitate that on thousands of people, and it can be easy. It's simple, but it's not easy and it's not quick, but it is worth it. What you see on the other side, you can be proud of yourself.
Well, that's awesome. So we hope you have learned something today and hopefully got you out of the rabbit hole and headed toward the right direction toward health. And again, go to our website, greenwisdomhealth.com. We've got the lab panels on there. Get started with a 2018 happy, healthy new year.
Once again, our show has come to an end, but your hope in your health is only beginning. If you or a loved one are in need of a different outcome and are waiting for a brighter future, take the first step and go to our website and fill out the health survey. Please don't keep us a secret. If you know someone that could benefit from this podcast, please share this show with your friends and family. You're only one step away from a life worth living.